Welcome to today's Explainer, proudly brought to you by Forge College. So, we finally made it to the capstone project for our module on Solana network selection, comparing mainnet versus DevNet. And today, we are taking all those theoretical concepts we've been talking about and assembling a bulletproof, highly operational Solana deployment decision engine. You know, if you've ever felt like deploying to mainnet is just closing your eyes, hitting the enter key, and hoping for the absolute best, well, today's your lucky day. We are going to completely eliminate that guesswork. Picture a massive sheet of beige drafting paper in front of us, and we're about to sketch out the ultimate blueprint using crisp orange and dark green ink. We're locking all the pieces together into a capstone framework that actually works. Here is the blueprint for today's session. First, the assembly line awaits. Second, we're building the skeleton. Third, the decision matrix math. Fourth, mapping outcomes. Fifth, testing the machine. And finally, number 6, getting deployment ready. Let's get to assembling. Section 1. The assembly line awaits. Okay, before we start bolting anything together, we really need to take stock of the high-precision parts we've already manufactured. Remember our previous lesson on drafting documentation processes and runbooks? Well, those components are currently just sitting on our workbench. We have 4 distinct artifacts here. Honestly, it's a bit like looking at all the terrifyingly loose parts of an IKEA furniture kit. We've got the scoped problem statement, the draft decision matrix, the protocol mapping, and those runbook templates. Right now, they're totally standalone. They're just waiting to be integrated into one single powerful engine.
Section 2. Building the framework skeleton.
So, our first actual task on this assembly line is creating the master blueprint document. Think of this as the sturdy chassis that's going to securely hold all those loose components we just talked about. This chassis needs some very specific sections drawn out: an executive summary, your problem statement, the decision matrix, protocol mapping, linked runbooks, and validation examples. This single, version-controlled document is incredibly important. It's the vital bridge between your theoretical planning and your practical, everyday operations. It is exactly what your stakeholders are going to review, and it's what your deployment team will actually act on when the pressure's on.
Section 3. The decision matrix math.
All right, this is where the real magic happens. The golden rule of our engineering math is the number 100. When you import your draft matrix into the master spreadsheet, you absolutely must normalize the weights of all your criteria so they perfectly equal 100. Think of it like baking a pie, right? You can slice that pie however you want to distribute your risk, but you can only ever have exactly 100% of a pie. If your normalized weights do not equal 100, the entire engine is going to misfire.
And here is why that math is so cool. Through the power of normalized weights, a raw, totally subjective score, say a gut-feeling risk rating of a 3 out of 5, is seamlessly converted into a definitive, normalized composite math score. This literally removes emotion from the equation. You are no longer just guessing how risky a deployment might be. You are scientifically calculating it.
Section 4. Mapping outcomes to action.
Now that our engine is successfully spitting out a definitive composite score, we have to hook up the steering mechanism. Because a score on its own is, well, it's just a number. It needs to tell us exactly where to drive our Solana deployment. Our framework maps these scores beautifully. Check this out. Less than 60, you are heading straight to DevNet for local testing. A score of 60 to 84, that steers you into staging or testnet. An 85 or above, bam, you have a mainnet candidate. This rigid logic prevents your team from deploying to mainnet based on a coin toss or, reading their daily horoscope. It is 100% data-driven.
But you might be wondering, what actually happens once a target is mapped? Well, that triggers the runbook. For anyone new to the term, a runbook is simply your operational step-by-step manual. Every single map threshold we just talked about has a specific runbook attached to it. It tells the team exactly what pre-deployment checks to run, who to notify, and what smoke tests to perform to actually operationalize the response. No more guessing what to do next.
Section 5. Testing your framework machine. Okay, the engine is built, but we are definitely not done. The Forge College framework is super strict about this. You should never, ever ship without running a rigorous diagnostic test first. You have to validate that the machine works under pressure. Here are the exact validation steps. First, document completeness. Are all the required sections actually there? Second, spreadsheet verification. Does the math update automatically like it should? Third, the threshold test. Push a score across a boundary and make sure the mapped actions actually change. Fourth, runbook integrity. Do all the links work? And finally, execution. We highly recommend running a mock scenario through the machine, maybe something like a high-risk security patch, just to ensure the engine tells you exactly what to do without glitching.
And that leads us to the ultimate quality gate, the big question. Did it pass the peer review? A successful framework absolutely cannot be signed off by you alone in a vacuum. You need a recorded sign-off from either 2 project peers or 1 key stakeholder. This proves that your engine is actually understandable and, more importantly, actionable for the rest of the team.
Section 6. Deployment ready.
Once all those checks pass, you can finally hit the brakes on the assembly line and admire the finished product. You've taken all those scattered loose components and built a fully auditable, reproducible, and versioned decision framework. But remember this core philosophy. Treat the framework as a decision engine rather than a rigid rulebook. It's there to guide your judgment, clarify accountability, and really operationalize your risk response. It doesn't blindly replace human reasoning, it empowers it, and it drastically reduces your cognitive load during those super stressful deployment windows.
So you are now officially prepared to move into pre-deployment verification. This explainer was brought to you by Forge College. If you want to dive deeper into mastering streamlined deployment checklists, or if you want to discover more amazing Web3 blueprints, head over to forge.college. It is an absolutely fantastic educational resource. But before you go, I want to leave you with a question. Look at your current deployment process right now. Are you really letting data drive the steering wheel, or are you still secretly relying on a gut feeling and a coin toss? Think about it. Keep building, keep refining that engine, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.